What is tennis? The racket sport, traditionally named lawn tennis, invented in Birmingham, England, now commonly known simply as tennis, is the direct descendant of what is now denoted real tennis or royal tennis, which continues to be played today as a separate sport with more complex rules. Most rules of lawn tennis derive from this precursor, and it is reasonable to see both sports as variations of the same game. Most historians believe that tennis was originated in the monastic cloisters in northern France in the 12th century, but the ball was then struck with the palm of the hand, hence the name jeu de paume, game of the palm. It was not until the 16th century that rackets came into use, and the game began to be called tennis. It was popular in England and France, and Henry VIII of England was a big fan of the game, now referred to as real tennis. As a very technical sport, tennis may not be for everyone. Tennis requires a great deal of patience and training to be enjoyable as an activity. It does, however, have vast health and fitness benefits. Individuals who regularly participate in tennis 3 hours per week, at moderately vigorous intensity, cut their risk of death in half from any cause, according to physician Ralph Paffenbarger, who studied over 10,000 individuals over a period of 20 years. In addition, competitive tennis burns more calories than aerobics, inline skating, or cycling, according to studies on caloric expenditures. Playing tennis works all the major muscle groups and is a valuable activity for both aerobic and anaerobic exercise. Tennis is a very active sport in which short, intense bursts of physical activity during a point are followed by a brief period of rest. This process, also known as interval training, occurs automatically during a game of tennis and creates an environment where the muscles are forced to use oxygen more efficiently. In fact, this is one of the specific reasons that tennis is able to burn the number of calories that it does. Tennis is also a valuable sport for the development of hand-eye coordination because the player must constantly judge the timing between the oncoming ball and the proper contact point. In addition, flexibility is required and improved due to the constant stretching and maneuvering to return the ball back towards the opponent. Playing the game. Developed between 1859 and 1865, tennis is a sport played between two players, singles, or between two teams of two players each, doubles. Each player uses a strung racket to strike a hollow rubber ball covered with felt, most of the time colored optic yellow. Tennis is played on a flat rectangular surface, usually grass, clay, or a hard court of concrete and/or asphalt. The court is 78 feet, 23.77 meters long. Its width is 27 feet, 8.23 meters for singles matches and 36 feet, 10.97 meters for doubles matches. The players, or teams, start on opposite sides of the net. One player is designated as the server, and the opposing player, or one of the opposing players in doubles, is the receiver. Service alternates between the two halves of the court. For each point that is played, the server starts behind their baseline, between the center mark and the sideline. The receiver may start anywhere on their side of the net. In a legal service, the ball travels over the net, without touching it, and into the diagonally opposite service box. A legal service starts a rally, in which the players alternate hitting the ball across the net. A legal return consists of the player hitting the ball exactly once before it has bounced twice or hit any fixtures except the net, provided that it still falls in the server's court. The ball then travels back over the net and bounces in the court on the opposite side. The first player or team to fail to make a legal return loses the point. Tennis exercise. Bilateral strength. We consider this thread the most important thread of the lot. Strength is king. Strength training is where we build the platform that everything else relies on. Following the bilateral strength programs will allow athletes to build total body strength that can be used as a base for power development, endurance, and force absorption. Anti-rotational and rotational control. Almost every time we hit a serve or shot on the court, there is an element of torso rotation, and with that comes a flow-on effect through what we call the kinetic chain, transferring load through multiple joints/movements. When our bodies are strong and stable through rotation movement and also at end range, we have a better capacity to hit better shots with more power and accuracy, and most importantly, we have better protection for the lower back and shoulder girdle. Force absorption. The majority of players focus their training on power and acceleration. But we know through over 20 years of experience training players that having the ability to absorb force, stop of break, slow down quickly, correctly is just as important if not more important than force expression, power. When your body is physically equipped to absorb force, you will be in a better position to move and hit shots from. There will also be a lot less wear and tear on your joints. Force expression. Every player wants more power, right? The more of it, the better. This thread works on tennis-specific movements and muscle groups that impact power output. If you are not training it the right way, you won't get the gains. Repeated power. Tennis is characterized as a power endurance sport, having the ability to perform repeated dynamic movements. Training this thread will help physically prepare your body for continuous bouts of power movements and shots. Typical injuries associated with tennis. Tennis elbow, a very common cause of elbow pain. It is considered a cumulative trauma injury that occurs over time from repeated use of the muscles of the arm and forearm, leading to small tears of the tendons. Because this injury is caused by overuse of the wrist extensors, muscles that pull the hand up, rest is the first treatment step. Using the RICE method, rest, ice, compression and elevation, of acute injury treatment is extremely helpful to reduce pain and swelling. Shoulder tendinitis, bursitis, and impingement syndrome. These types of shoulder injuries are closely related to and often occur in combination with shoulder tendinitis, leading to an impingement syndrome. If the muscles and tendons of the rotator cuff or the bursa of the shoulder are injured, they become inflamed and swollen. Treatment includes rest, ice, and anti-inflammatory medicines. Physical therapy is prescribed in some cases. Tendinitis of the wrist, an irritation and swelling of the tissue or tunnel which surrounds the tendons of the thumb. Pain in the front of the wrist is a common symptom of tendinitis. Bending and extending the wrist is usually painful, and there may be swelling in the wrist. If treated early, tendinitis can improve quickly. Steroid injections or anti-inflammatory medications can be used in most cases. More serious tendinitis may require surgery. Nutritional tips for tennis players. A typical individual burns 5 to 11 calories per minute, or 300 to 660 calories per hour, when they play singles recreational tennis. Individuals that play doubles tennis burn, on average, 3.4 to 7.7 calories per minute. Competitive tennis players can burn 6.4 to 14.4 calories per minute, or 384 to 864 calories per hour of activity. As is evident, tennis has the ability to burn a high number of calories per hour and is an excellent form of exercise. You need to consume at least 2.7 grams of carbohydrates per pound of body weight per day. When you are on the court for several hours a day, you need to consume even more carbohydrates, 3.2 to 4.5 grams per pound per day. Consuming carbohydrates can improve your endurance, overall energy level, and the quality of your stroke in the final stages of a long tennis match. In general, try to consume 100 grams of carbohydrates approximately 30 minutes before the match, and consume an additional 50 grams every 2 hours throughout the match. Good sources of carbohydrates include whole grain breads and cereals, fruits, and vegetables. Tennis players need 0.55 to 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight per day. Eating more protein than this will not improve your tennis performance. Good sources of protein include fish, chicken, turkey, beef, low-fat milk, cheese, yogurt, eggs, nuts and soy foods, e.g. tofu, soy nuts, and soy burgers. Carbohydrates are better fuel than fat for playing tennis, but you do need to eat some fat every day to stay healthy. Your body will burn fat for energy during long matches. Eat at least 0.45 grams of fat per pound of body weight per day. Choose heart-healthy fats such as canola oil, olive oil, and nuts.